I stood in the doorway of my Aunt Catherine's lavish home, watching the annual Thanksgiving chaos unfold. The mansion's grand foyer was decorated with elaborate autumn arrangements, the air heavy with the scent of turkey and expensive perfume. This was the Morrison family's yearly display of wealth and status, a tradition I'd grown to despise. "Olivia." My cousin Madison's shrill voice cut through the noise. "You're actually here. We weren't sure you'd come, given your circumstances." I forced a polite smile, smoothing down my deliberately understated dress. If only they knew that my circumstances included being CEO of Sterling Enterprises, the parent company that had quietly acquired Morrison Technologies 3 months ago. "The kids' table is that way," Aunt Catherine called out, not bothering to hide her smirk. "Though I suppose that's where you belong, given your position in life." At 32, I was the family's designated failure. The one who'd walked away from the prestigious family business to strike out on my own. Little did they know that my tiny consulting business was actually a cover for my role as the reclusive founder of Sterling Enterprises. "Thanks, Aunt Catherine," I said quietly, watching her turn back to fawning over Madison's new Cartier bracelet, probably bought with her Morrison Technologies salary, which I now technically paid. The kids' table was exactly as depressing as expected. A rickety card table set up in the corner, far from the elegant main dining room. I took my seat among my young cousins, some barely in their teens, while watching the successful adults gather around the main table. "Poor Olivia," I heard my Uncle James stage whisper to my mother. "Still hasn't found her way, has she? Good thing the rest of us know how to succeed in business." My mother sighed dramatically. We tried to tell her to stay at Morrison Technologies, but she had to be different, had to chase her silly dreams. I bit back a laugh, thinking about the meeting scheduled for Monday morning. The one where Morrison Technologies employees would discover that their company had been acquired by Sterling Enterprises months ago. The one where they'd learn that their jobs, their salaries, their precious positions all depended on the woman they'd banished to the kids' table. "Aunt Olivia," my 12-year-old cousin Tommy whispered, "why did they make you sit here? You're a grown-up." I smiled at him, the first genuine smile of the evening. "Because they think success only looks one way, Tommy. They haven't learned that power doesn't always announce itself." "Is that why you're letting them talk about you like that?" His young face was serious. "Even though you're actually their Sha. I pressed a finger to my lips, winking at him. Tommy was the only one who knew my secret. He discovered it by accident when he'd seen my name on some documents while visiting my office. But he kept quiet, understanding instinctively what I was doing. Around the main table, the conversation had turned to business, as it always did. Morrison Technologies had been the family's pride and joy for 3 generations. Now my Uncle James ran it, with my cousins Madison and Tyler in executive positions they hadn't earned. "The company's doing better than ever," James boasted, raising his wine glass. "We're expanding into new markets, hiring more staff. This time next year, we'll be twice the size we are now." I hid my smile behind my water glass. He had no idea that Sterling Enterprises had already begun restructuring plans. By this time next year, half of his executive team would be replaced with actually qualified professionals. "And how's your little consulting business, Olivia?" Madison called out, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Still working from that tiny office downtown?" "Oh, you know." I shrugged. "It pays the bills." "Barely, from what I hear," Tyler snickered. "Maybe if you'd stayed at Morrison Technologies, you'd be sitting at the grown-up table by now." My Aunt Catherine nodded sagely. It's not too late to admit you made a mistake, dear. I'm sure James could find something entry-level for you. Maybe in the mailroom? The entire adult table erupted in poorly concealed laughter. I remained quiet, thinking about the documents sitting in my office. The ones that would reveal that Sterling Enterprises, my company, now owned everything they were so proud of. Actually, I said carefully, I have some interesting meetings coming up about the future of my career. Oh, honey. My mother patted my hand condescendingly. Don't get your hopes up. Some people just aren't meant for big success. Just then my phone buzzed. A message from my CFO. Everything's set for Monday's announcement. The papers are ready. Morrison Technologies is officially ours. I looked around the table at my smug relatives, James bragging about his business acumen, Madison showing off her expensive jewelry, Tyler boasting about his corner office. None of them had any idea that their comfortable world was about to be turned upside down. More turkey, Olivia? Aunt Catherine called out mockingly. At least you can eat well at our table, even if you can't succeed like the rest of us. I smiled, thinking about Monday morning. Thank you, Aunt Catherine. I think this Thanksgiving will be very memorable indeed. Tommy caught my eye and grinned. He knew what was coming. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a side of corporate acquisition papers and a complete restructuring of the family business. The kids' table suddenly felt like the perfect place to watch it all unfold. Monday morning arrived with a crisp November chill. I stood in my private office at Sterling Enterprises, 40 floors above the city, watching the sunrise paint the skyline in shades of gold. In exactly 2 hours, my family's perfect world would shatter. Ms. Andrews? My assistant Sarah appeared at the door. Everyone from Morrison Technologies has arrived for the routine shareholders meeting. They're waiting in the main conference room. I smiled, adjusting my tailored suit. No more understated dresses today. And my family? Your Uncle James is complaining about having to come to Sterling Enterprises. He's saying it's beneath him to meet with, and I quote, some faceless corporation that probably doesn't understand our family values. Perfect. I checked my reflection in the window. Is everything ready? Sarah nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. She'd been with me since the beginning, watching me build Sterling Enterprises while my family mocked my supposed failure. Security is in place. The papers are ready, and the cameras are set up to capture every reaction. Then let's not keep them waiting. The conference room was a sight to behold. Through the glass walls, I could see my family seated around the massive table, James at the head, naturally, with Madison and Tyler flanking him. My mother sat nearby, probably already planning how to brag about this meeting at her next social gathering. They have no idea you're coming, Sarah whispered. Your uncle's been demanding to meet with Mr. Sterling for the past hour. I straightened my shoulders. Well, let's not disappoint him. The room fell silent as I walked in, my heels clicking against the marble floor. For a moment, no one recognized me. They were too busy looking for the male CEO they'd expected. Then Madison's eyes widened. Olivia? What are you doing here? This is a private meeting. Is it? I moved to the head of the table, directly opposite Uncle James. I think you'll find I have every right to be here. Now see here, James began, his face reddening. We're here to meet with Sterling Enterprises CEO. Run along and play with your little consulting business. I sat down, placing a thick folder on the table. Oh, but Uncle James, I am Sterling Enterprises CEO. In fact, I own it. And as of 3 months ago, I own Morrison Technologies too. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the soft whir of the cameras capturing every shocked expression, every moment of dawning horror. That's impossible, Tyler stammered. Morrison Technologies is a family company. Yes, I agreed pleasantly. And it still is. Just not your family anymore. I opened the folder and began distributing documents. These papers confirmed Sterling Enterprises' acquisition of Morrison Technologies, completed 3 months ago through a series of shell corporations. You all signed off on it, though you were too busy congratulating yourselves to read the fine print. My mother's face had gone pale. But your consulting business was a cover, I smiled. While you were all mocking my tiny office downtown, I was building one of the largest corporate consulting firms in the country. The office you laughed at was just for show. Madison grabbed the papers with trembling hands. This can't be legal. Daddy, do something. James was frantically flipping through the documents, his face growing paler by the second. These are legitimate. We work for Olivia now. Not exactly. I leaned back in my chair. You see, I've been reviewing the company's performance, specifically the executive team's qualifications. It's interesting how many positions were filled based on family connections rather than merit. The color drained from Tyler's face. What are you saying? I'm saying that effective immediately, there will be some changes in management, starting with the executive team. I pressed a button, and the wall screen lit up with a new organizational chart. Madison gasped as she saw her name missing from the VP position she'd held for 3 years. You can't do this, she whispered. We're family. Family? I stood up slowly. Was I family when you made me sit at the kids' table? When you mocked my career? When you treated me like a failure while I was building an empire? James slammed his fist on the table. This is revenge, plain and simple. No, Uncle James. This is business. The same business you claimed I didn't understand. I started walking around the table. Your executive team is underqualified. The company's performance has been declining for years. You've been coasting on the family name while more competent companies passed you by. And now, my mother asked quietly. Now? I stopped behind her chair. Now Morrison Technologies will be run by people who earned their positions. Starting today, all executive positions will be reviewed. Those who are qualified may stay. Those who aren't, I glanced at Madison and Tyler, will be offered positions more suited to their actual skills. You demote your own family. Madison's voice cracked. You mean like how you demoted me to the kids' table? Treated me like a child playing at business? I smiled. Consider this a lesson in real corporate management. I nodded to Sarah, who began distributing another set of papers. These are your new contracts. You have until the end of the day to decide if you want to stay with the company in your new positions. If not, severance packages are included. And if we refuse, James challenged, though his voice lacked its usual authority, then you can leave now. But I should mention, non-compete clauses are in effect. And given that Sterling Enterprises owns most of the major consulting firms in the region, I let the implication hang in the air. The room was silent except for the sound of shuffling papers and muffled sobs from Madison. My mother sat frozen, probably calculating how this would affect her social standing. Oh, and one more thing, I added, pausing at the door. Next year's Thanksgiving dinner will be held at my house. I have plenty of room at the main table, for those who still have jobs to be thankful for. As I walked out, I heard Tyler's shaky voice. Did she just own us? Sarah fell into step beside me as we headed back to my office. That was quite something. Are you okay? I looked down at my phone, where a text from young Tommy had just appeared. Did you do it? Did you show them? I'm perfect, I replied to Sarah. Sometimes the best seat in the house is at the kids' table. You get to watch all the grown-ups' mistakes without having to pretend they're successes. The real work was just beginning. Restructuring Morrison Technologies, implementing proper management practices, turning it into the company it should have been all along. But for now, I savored the moment. After all, revenge doesn't always come with cranberry sauce. Sometimes it comes with corporate letterhead and a complete reorganization chart. The weeks following the revelation were exactly what I expected. A storm of desperate calls, manipulation attempts, and increasingly panicked family meetings. My phone buzzed constantly with messages. Olivia, darling, we need to discuss this as a family. Mom, you can't destroy your own family's legacy. Uncle James, please, we can work something out. Madison. I let them all go to voicemail while I focused on restructuring Morrison Technologies. The business news was having a field day. Morrison Technologies undergoes major management overhaul. FAMILY DRAMA leads to corporate shaky UP. Hidden CEO REVEL IDENTITY and Duravatic family confrontation. 1 month after the revelation, I sat in my office reviewing the latest performance reports when Sarah appeared at my door. Your cousin Madison is here, she said. No appointment, but she looks different. I glanced at the security feed. Madison stood in the lobby, but she wasn't the perfectly polished executive I remembered. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by a simple business suit. Her usual arrogant expression was missing. Send her up, I decided. Madison walked into my office like a stranger, taking in the space with new eyes. Nice view, she said quietly. Better than my old office. Though I suppose that's not saying much anymore. What do you want, Madison? She sank into a visitor's chair. I took the job. The junior analyst position you offered. I raised an eyebrow. Really? I thought you said you'd rather die than start at the bottom. I did. She laughed without humor. Then I tried applying at other firms. Turns out when you remove the Morrison name and connection, my resume is lacking. Shocking. I deserve that, she admitted. I deserve all of this. She hesitated. I want to learn. Actually learn, not just coast by on the family name. I studied her carefully. Why should I believe you? Because you were right. Her voice cracked slightly. About everything. About earning our positions. About real business skills. I've been reading the company reports since you took over. Our performance has improved more in 1 month than in the last 3 years under Dad. Speaking of Uncle James, I leaned back in my chair. How is he handling early retirement? Madison grimaced. Not well. He's drinking a lot, talking about family betrayal. Mom's social circle is in shambles. Turns out people aren't so impressed by our name anymore. And Tyler? Took the severance package. Said he'd rather start fresh somewhere else than work his way up here. She paused. He's having trouble finding anything above entry level. I nodded, unsurprised. That's what happens when your only qualification is your last name. I know that now. Madison looked down at her hands. I'd been thinking about Thanksgiving. About all the times we made you sit at the kids' table, treated you like you were beneath us. We were so busy looking down on you that we didn't see you rising above us." Just then, my office door burst open. Uncle James stumbled in, ignoring Sarah's protests. The smell of expensive scotch wafted in with him. "You," he slurred, pointing at me. "You destroyed everything." "No, Uncle James." I remained seated, watching him sway. "You destroyed everything. Years of nepotism, of prioritizing family connections over competence. I just exposed it." "We're blood," he shouted. "That used to mean something. It still does." I stood up slowly. "But blood doesn't qualify you to run a company. Skill does. Experience does. Actually knowing what you're doing does." "James." My mother's voice cut through as she rushed in after him. "Stop making a scene." I almost laughed at her instinctive concern for appearances. "Still worried about the family image, Mom. Even now." She deflated slightly, looking suddenly older. "Everything's changed, Olivia. The country club, our social circle, even our neighbors look at us differently now." "Because they're seeing you clearly for the first time," I said quietly. "Just like you're finally seeing me." Madison stood up. "Dad, you're embarrassing yourself. This isn't helping anything." James turned on her. "You, working as a junior analyst, a Morrison, starting at the bottom." "Yes," she said firmly, "because that's where I should have started in the first place, where we all should have started." I watched this exchange with interest. Maybe Madison really was starting to understand. "Get him out of here," I told Sarah. "And call him a car. He's in no condition to drive." After security escorted James out, my mother lingered. "Was all this really necessary, Olivia? The takeover, the demotions, the public humiliation? Was it necessary to treat me like a failure for 10 years? I countered. "To mock my career, belittle my choices, make me sit at the kids' table while you all congratulated yourselves on success you hadn't earned?" She had no answer for that. "The company is doing better now," I continued. "Real executives in leadership positions, actual qualifications required for promotion. If you don't believe me, check the quarterly reports." "And the family?" she asked quietly. "That depends on you. All of you. I didn't do this for revenge. I did it because it was good business. What happens next is up to you." After they left, I stood at my window, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk fell. My phone buzzed with a message from Tommy. "Hey, Aunt Olivia. Mom says I can come work at your office after school sometimes. She says I need to learn business the right way. Is that okay?" I smiled, thinking about the next generation of the Morrison family. Maybe some good would come from all this after all. 1 year later, I hosted Thanksgiving dinner at my penthouse. The table settings were elegant, but not ostentatious. Success doesn't need to shout to be heard. Madison was there, having earned a promotion to senior analyst through actual hard work. Tommy came too, proud to show off what he'd learned during his after-school office visits. Even my mother attended, though she was quieter now, more thoughtful. Uncle James and Tyler didn't come. Some people can't accept change, can't admit their mistakes. But those who could, those who were willing to learn and grow, found their places at my table. "You know what I'm thankful for," Madison said during dinner? "Second chances, and learning what real success looks like." I raised my glass, thinking about how far we'd come. To real success, I toasted, and to earning your seat at the table. Tommy grinned at me from across the table. "No kids' table this year, Aunt Olivia?" "No," I smiled back. "Just one table. For people who understand that true worth isn't in your name or your connections, it's in what you build for yourself. And that, more than any corporate takeover or family drama, was the real victory. Sometimes the best revenge isn't in destroying what others built, it's in building something better yourself. The kids' table was gone, but its lesson remained. Sometimes those they look down on the most rise the highest. And sometimes the best view of success comes from starting at the bottom. As for the Morrison family legacy, it's stronger than ever, just not in the way they expected. And that's something to be truly thankful for.